You're listening to the Discussing the Resilient podcast, hosted by Aiden Smalley and William Reid, a competitive 40k podcast for the servants of Nurgle and the fallen 14th Legion. Tactics, meta-analysis, and all things Death Guard.
Hi guys, so welcome again to another episode of the Discussing the Resilient podcast.
Woo!
Yeah, I want to start by again just thanking everyone for the views and support and subscribes. Obviously, it's been amazing. Me and Aidan, we started this less than a month ago, I think, and we'd have been happy with a few hundred plays, and yeah, we're overwhelmed by the support and the continuation of it. So thanks very much. Obviously, we managed to get on Spotify. I think we're also on Apple and Amazon now. Only the first episode. So what we'll do is when we put this one out on YouTube, we'll put the second one up on Spotify, and then what we'll try and do is before we get the fourth one out, we'll try and catch up so it's sort of on there as well, because we know a lot of people are asking for that. But I mean, obviously it's another episode, so we've got a few topics. One of them is obviously World Eaters, and we've got some a world exclusive of Aidan's new list. So
Oh God, no pressure. I did put a poll out on the Death Guard Facebook group, and I asked obviously what people wanted us to talk about the most, and Death Guard won it. Obviously, Death Guard's being talked about. World Eaters won the poll. So yeah, here we are to talk to you about how to smash the angriest boys in the galaxy.
That's it, yeah. I mean, I've played against them once. It was a close game, to be fair. I lost by a couple of points, but it was a good learning curve to sort of face them and see how they go. I haven't played against Angron yet. It was 8-bar spam that I played, and they're interesting. Like I say, have you got a game against them yet, Aidan, or have you had a chance?
No, yeah, I got beat to it. Davs, who plays World Eaters at our local club. He was like, "Who wants a game?" And I got beat to it by another fella, and I was like, "Damn you, my content!" Obviously, we can talk about fundamentals and stuff like that, because I've read through the codex, I know what it does and stuff like that, and it's World Eaters. No offense to everyone out there, it does go zug and it smashes you. It's not like you're playing against Eldar with all the million tricks. It does one thing and it's going to do the one thing.
Yeah, it has quite a linear play style, and I mean, I suppose, talking about sort of World Eaters and their kind of like list build stuff, I think World Eaters, their secondaries are really easy to score, but some of their secondaries are scored at the expense of their sort of killing power. So I think that's one of the sort of things we can sort of, we'll break in that anyway. But some of the other stuff we wanted to talk about, just have a quick catch up. We'll run through some of our games. Aidan has a game he's played against Votan that he wants to sort of share, I'll brag that I'm now undefeated against the new guard codex. I beat them 3 times now. But I will also caveat that I haven't played against anyone who's playing like a meta list. The last one I played was a bit more meta in terms of the models, but the guy's still getting a feel with them, and like I say, I'm not quite at a bragging point yet. Like I say, I haven't sort of gone 3-0 at a tournament and faced me in the 4th round, anything like that. But talking of tournaments, obviously Manchester.
I was just going to say, sorry. Then it was interesting because before we actually went live on this, we were talking to each other about how like the stats for Guard could be a bit misleading, because right now Guard are actually like a midpoint win rate, like still decent, 50% at least, but I think it doesn't fully show the power of the book, I think. And it was interesting because we were talking about how like Guard is one of those books where it has a lot of like people who just play the faction because they love it. Like we play Death Guard regardless, and I think that obviously in doing that, people have like there's a lot of fluff lists that go around. People just want to bring like 200 infantry or whatnot, and not exactly the meta list, and that can obviously mess with stats, which is a reason why you shouldn't always look at win rate when it comes to certain armies. But I think you're right. I don't think either of us have faced like a true like nightmare boogeyman list yet.
Yeah,
for Guard.
I mean, win rates, actually, that's a good thing to touch upon, because a lot of people get fixated on win rates. And T-Whip, I think it's in winning position.
Times in winning position, yeah.
Yeah, that's what you want to look at more. So, in a sort of quick summary, it basically means when an army takes its first loss. So, for example, Eldar are a great example of this. So, a lot of people go, Eldar's win rate's terrible, but their T-Whip is usually pretty good, though, which means that a lot of tournaments, a lot of Eldar players or list will take their first loss in the fourth or fifth round. So even though they're sort of there's more fluffy players or people who aren't as maybe sort of like competitive, pulling the win rate down because they're playing fluffy lists. There's really competitive, really skilled players who make the army sing, and I think Guard are probably in that same position. But maybe it's not to do with the skill of sort of some of the players. I think some of the people are a bit more fluffy. Maybe he's got all the stuff sort of ready to go. But I think the meta players, we were talking this before, when they're a bit like orcs, where there's so many models, and so much sort of painting time that unless you have them, ready to go, there's probably going to be a bit of hobby lag there. And the people who do own them, maybe it's the the sort of fluffy guys.
Yeah, the guys who played Guard since they came out with the first ever model, and still playing with the metal models and everything.
Yeah, that's it. And then the meta players who might sort of borrow models sort of off their mates and things like that, and rather than sort of buy them themselves. Those Guard players are probably like in love with their models and really excited to get them on the table and enjoy the new codex themselves. So that's certainly at least my opinion, because it hasn't seemed to have been as much Guard in at least our local meta as I would have expected, especially when there were sort of the big boogeymen.
I think on topic of the meta as well, I think when you look at stuff like Guard as well, I think another reason Guard isn't particularly up there is it's kind of to do with the hobby lag, what you said. I think there is other armies that perform just as strong, if not stronger, without half the amount of needed models, therefore not the hobby lag, and they're probably also just a bit easier to play. Like Dark Angels, for example. Like,
oh yeah,
anyone can get 20-30 Deathwing Terminators and some bikes and some land speed, bam, off you are to go, and it's kind of plays itself. Whereas Guard has you've still got to worry about stuff like your tanks getting tagged. Anyone can make an Iron Hands gun line with a drop pod and some grav cannons. It's not the hardest thing in the world to make work.
We've also got to worry about, can you get 30 Kassakin in stock somewhere? That's
true.
Nothing Guard players are.
Can you remortgage your home?
Yeah. I haven't looked on eBay to see what they're going for, but I bet it's something horrific.
Oh yeah, it's something I think it's like 75 quid for 10.
Talking of horrific things, and this is a bit of a tangent. Do you realise how much the Lord of Contagion goes for on eBay now?
Oh god, it's horrendous. Yeah, it's so silly.
I saw someone post on the Death Guard Facebook saying like they got it for what they thought was a really good price, and it was like, they thought it was 30 quid, and I was like, that's a terrible price, surely.
They used to be like £5.
I know. I remember I remember people messaging me practically giving them away, being like, I've still got the Death Guard half the dart, and people, do you want it? I know you like this stuff, and I was like,
my dog ate my Lord of Contagion. He bit it pretty hard and snapped quite a bit off it. So I was gutted because I spent ages painting it. And then Ben was just like, oh, I've got 5 in my drawer, do you want one? Just threw it to me, and I'm just like, yep, go on.
God, he needs to get them on eBay. Could have himself a holiday or something.
I know, lucky boy, eh? But yeah, so you were going to talk about the RTT. The RTT you wanted to talk about?
Yeah. So I mean, I've played one RTT since, and it wasn't the best showing from myself, unfortunately. I won the first game against Guard. I had a closest game against Grey Knights, but I'm just finding, so my frustration with Death Guard at the moment is it's always the same mission, and I forget what it's called. You probably know it because it's a 6 objective one, and they're like 2 almost diagonals against each other.
Is it Tides of Conviction?
I think so. Yeah, it's a one basically where if you go second, you score like a ridiculous amount of points.
Yeah, I think it's that one.
Yeah, so it's basically played that. It was close until it wasn't. Basically, it was kind of the first 3 or 4 turns. It was kind of like a couple of points in it either way, and then I failed a charge. It had like a big swing on the points basically, and then from that point it just sort of landslid, and I just sort of couldn't get back in the game. So that was a bit frustrating. Then I played a really off-meta Eldar list, which I'll probably never see again. But it was like weirdly an almost accidental hard counter to Death Guard. It was all the Wraith Knights. Everything in the army was a Wraith Knight. Everything was like reducing damage by 1, and I was, the classics are like, why does it reduce damage by 1? It's so frustrating. Again, with my army does exactly the same thing. And then all those flipping D cannons, like my rhinos, he popped them both in the first turn from out of line of sight, and I was like, oh, this is not ridiculous because obviously it's a game, but it was very frustrating because I'd set up so I was going to use the rhinos like a launching point and keep launching Plague Marines on his obviously it was a 5 objective mission, so keep launching into sort of like a quarter that wasn't in his deployment, but not to the centre because the centre was open. And I thought I'll just keep kind of like fighting there, but I couldn't get to the I couldn't get to his objective as easily, and it just kind of landslid from there, really. So that was a bit of a frustrating one, but you know, that's how the game goes. But
it does happen sometimes, especially RTTs. You do run into a lot more of these weird lists that just you don't know what to expect it, and then suddenly it's pulling off the counter to you. It's funny because it's like off meta lists can really screw you, and it's the same in like if you play like computer games, for example. Like I play like Rainbow Six Siege, and there's like everyone has like known positions and spots and like strategies, and then sometimes you go into like a random game where people are just literally running around like headless chickens, and you're expecting like them to be in certain places, and they just like stood in the middle of nowhere and just pop you because you're just so thrown off by it. And it can be the same in 40k, just like, what is this list? What does it do? Oh no, it's beating me. What's going on?
Yeah, it was really frustrating. I mean, everything was -1 damage. Everything, like I say, it was weirdly like playing against Death Guard. But yeah, they were just a little bit more efficient. They did still have the Eldar, some Eldar tricks in there as well. You know,
yeah.
I think Fire and Fade, and what's the other one that like the fast reactions and stuff like that. So it was a good game, to be honest. It wasn't a complete blowout, but it was one of those games where from the third turn onwards, it had gone a bit sideways, and I was clutching at straws and, you know, hoping for 9-inch charges and sort of, you know, all that kind of silly stuff. But yeah, but what about yourself anyway? I mean, have you been to any events, or have you just been practicing at the local club? Or
I really wanted to go to that event, but apparently if you are the club owner, which I am co-owner of the club, you're not allowed to attend your own event. So I was banned from my own event. But I would have loved to go to it. But no, my first event is looking to be Manchester Super Major, the Manchester GT, the UKTC event, which is 3 weeks away. So I've just been practicing on Mondays my list I'm going to be taking to that, which we'll talk about in a bit. But on that practice, I did recently have to run into a very, very fun matchup, which was the Ymir Votan double Hackathon Fortress list.
Oh god. That was fun, was it?
Oh yeah, very fun. You know, it's great having all your toughness just completely ignored and dealt mortal wounds, and you know, everyone's got like armor contempt still. You can't reroll wounds against it, which pissed me off so much.
Yeah, I played against salamanders, and yeah, like again, so annoying. So annoying.
Yeah. But it's like when I'm playing against it, it's what's made me decide on a lot of list changes that we'll obviously get into in a bit. But it was an interesting game. So obviously we had the double Hackathon build, 3 squads of minimum bikes, berserkers in each Hackathon, and what else was there? 1 squad of Hearthkin to hold the back, some characters, some 2 squads of Thunderkin in strategic reserves with grav cannons, which obviously we don't like either. So the list I was running was my standard. It was sort of my more standard.
Was this the one with the Blightlord brick you were testing?
Yeah, so it was my old list. But what I'd done is I dropped a Rhino, and I dropped what else did I drop?
So just one Rhino, was it then, or?
Yeah, it was just playing with one Rhino.
Okay.
Only 20 Marines as well. I did have 4 Death Shroud. And this is the fun fact. For some reason, my my battle scribe I brought a flesh mower drone, and it would equip the flesh mower drone to a squad as like an equipment.
All right, I thought you were going to say it quit. Okay. Jesus.
No. So it didn't actually include the points for it in my list. So my list was actually 110 points over.
Oh, Aidan. Cheat.
But hear it out. The funny thing was, I was so obsessed with testing the Blightlord Terminators and seeing how they did. At the end of turn 3, my opponent gladly reminded me that my Death Shroud was still in Deep Strike and are now all dead.
There you go. So you went from being 115 points over to 75 points under. Obviously, the difference on the black.
Yeah, I was just okay, that evens out. Fair enough.
Fair play. Well, there you go. It's karma for you, Aidan. There you go. Yeah. You shouldn't trust Battle Scribe. Get your codex and your calculator out. No, we've all been there. I'm taking the piss.
Kids don't trust Battle Scribe always. But the actual game, how it went, it didn't go too bad actually. I tried a flesh mower drone for the first time ever.
What do you think? Because right at the start of 8th, I was on my special snowflake list with 3 of them, and I couldn't. I loved them to pieces, and I was very sad when I finally did decide to go down the 3 Contemptor and 3 Plague Burst Crawler route to not be such a special snowflake. How did you find them? Because is this the first time you've run them? Because you've always gone for
it is the first time ever. Yeah, so obviously I've been a special snowflake as well and ran the heavy blight launcher. Now I know flesh mowers are good. I've always known flesh mowers are good. They are a great unit. I just for some reason never used one. Why? Why was I not using one?
So now you've popped your terry. You going rampant on these things.
Oh yeah, I'm shoving 2 in now. I think I'm gonna go 2.
Ooh, 2 at a time, baby.
It was just really nice to have, like, just fly over. And this is obviously without reroll wounds either, which was very annoying to, like, get on the bikes and be like, freeze to wound and can't reroll the ones. Like,
But because of the strength, though, you tend not to need the reroll wounds on the flesh mowers. That's one of the things that I find that they're quite self-contained, aren't they? They don't have any buffs to hit, so they're not relying on any sort of support characters. And then obviously the reroll ones to wound are great because normally they're wounding on 2s, but if you're not re-rolling 1s, it's not the end of the world. Obviously, unless you have a shit the bed dice roll where you roll 7 1s when you shouldn't or something like that. But I find they're just a solid unit.
But I think the thing that really sold me on it was there was a point where I went and charged an objective and I left a bike alive and 1 wound, which was annoying. So it did live. It was okay because it was the only objective he held, so I killed him off the other one. So wasn't the worst. Like, if I had killed it, it would be even better because he'd got 0 on primary. But we were playing Tides of Conviction, that one you hate.
Oh, God, yeah.
And so 1 lived, so unfortunately he did score 4. And again, that's why I said if I had those real ones to wound, I probably would have picked up that last wound on any other army.
Oh,
so,
nice.
So I forgave the flesh mower. But what was really nice was obviously next turn he's thinking in his head, okay, I'll just move out of combat with a flesh mower with my 1 wound bike, keep it hidden behind obscuring, because and then at least I'm going to hold it and he won't score it next turn. And then I got to do the amazing thing which I've never not been able to do with my drones. My bloat drones would be like, oh yeah, that can heroic intervention 6.
1 CP, good lad.
So yeah, it was really nice to have. So then he tried to dedicate some firepower to it, but it actually bounced. It got really lucky on its symbols and bounced the conversion beamers.
That's the other thing that's really good about them, isn't it? Because they've got less than 9 wounds, the amount of times when they live on 1 or 2 wounds when they shouldn't really, on average dice or whatever, and the slap back, I've had it before where, like, say, Blood Angels...
Yeah, not degraded, so nice.
Yeah, you make a couple more 5-ups than you should do, and all of a sudden your 1 wound flesh mower just picks up the horse and guard squad, and you're like, yes, that's amazing, swings a game.
Yeah, so, that's what he lived that. Heroic Intervention into the bike, killed the bike, and then next turn in my turn, I flew over into his back objective where he had some half-kin warriors, used the strat where you get, like, a wound back for everyone you kill.
Yeah, it's capped at 3, though.
Yeah, capped at 3, but I think it took me back from 3 to 6, and it's like, having that in your back line is not, like, something you want to be playing around with.
It's really good, isn't it? Especially if you manage to get gain the wounds 2 turns in a row or something, and then, because some people will leave them in combat, and I don't know, like, I've had it before where, over the course of a game, it's sort of eked its wounds back, and, come the end of the game, it's gone from 1 back to 7 wounds.
Yeah, it's just really nice to have access to that little strat, just to, like, cheek stuff out, and it just eats more firepower, and it's just really good. What I'll do is I'm going to try and, because obviously people have asked, like, how did your game go, like, how do you think about it, how do you approach it, so I'll just do a quick little breakdown of it. Obviously...
sorry, I'll let you...
No, it's alright, man. I'm just trying to think how to put it. So basically, because obviously double battle boss, when he deployed, he put one of his battle bosses on the center point with, the whole combo with the Iron Master, reduce it to damage 0, etc. like that. And he put one of these battle bosses on the far left of the board. So, the second he did that, I was thinking in my head, if I can kill that middle battle boss, I can just control the left one with Cloud Flies all game. Which did actually end up happening. So my entire goal was kill bikes. I put the Blightlords and Death Shroud into teleport. Normally I wouldn't actually teleport Blightlords, but obviously Votan have such little model count, it's really hard for him to screen effectively, especially if he wants to use the bikes to get objectives.
Was the 10-man brick that you put in there, was it just a 5?
Yeah, the full 10-man brick.
Oh, wow.
It went back into my list. I hadn't played with it in a long time. I played with it, and it is no longer in the list.
what, 1 game off the bench and then straight back as a sub?
Yeah, it can't. So it did its job. Like, I managed to get it into his back lines, and it showed up. It shot some stuff, and it got shot. And actually, like, I had really bad 4-ups, really bad 4-ups. I lost a shit ton. And they lived. I mean, they lived all game, and they managed to kill some Thunderkin. But I was just the entire game. I was sat there, and I was like, man, if I had like not this 400 points in this blob, and I could have done this with like anything else. Like,
yeah, it's
okay,
the points,
like
isn't it?
it's the points. It's too much in one. It's just like I could have split it out much more effectively, which is what we're going to get into after in the changes. But it's not a bad unit. It's a fine unit. But I think I was talking to a League 1 French player, and the way we sort of like
League
come to a conclusion about
and what just to give people context who are listening, League
yeah,
1,
so
like
theirs is a bit different. Yeah, theirs is a little different. They have like different leagues for the rankings. Not 100% sure it works. They play on WTC terrain a lot, but it's just sort of like how they're like, you know, like we have like ITC rankings and stuff like that. They have like leagues, so they're League 1 Death Guard player. So obviously top league. But we were talking to each other about it, and basically we kind of came to the agreement that, and it's kind of what I feel. Blightlords are a good unit, but I kind of feel like they're a what I would describe as a 3-2 unit. So it's a bike with training wheels on, and yeah, you can ride the bike, and the bike is not going to fall over, and there's a good chance you get 3-2 that list. But when you've got so many points tied up in such a slow unit, it's going to be really hard to get that 5-0, because when you come across those good players, they're just going to dance around that little block.
I'm not even sure it's a 3-2, to be honest with you. I mean, when
I think it's a safe pick, is what I mean. It's a very safe. Like, if you're really nervous, you can put 10 Blightlords in. Chances are, like, if you run into any players that don't know how to like deal with that sort of stuff, you'll just run over them.
I guess so, but what I mean at the moment is with people teching for like the Dark Angels Terminators
yeah,
and
true.
also the Chaos Terminator brick, I think at this point people know how to deal with 10 Terminators, and there's tougher 10 Terminators out there.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing as well. There's just tougher Terminators. Like, you get Storm Shield, Transhuman, -1 damage, all in Dark Angels. You can do it all in Dark Angels. Like, why are you bringing Blightlords? Dark Angels hurt more, harder to kill, and they just got the same defensive stuff. Like, they're not T5, that's the only difference.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
the Transhumans, so who cares?
But yeah, so sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, because I realised you were sort
right.
of breaking down the game there. So you got to the point, I think, where you'd started Cloud of Flies and stuff to...
Yeah, so I did the usual, got my Rhino into a middle L full of guys and just kind of like started going out. I had casters doing Warp Ritual in the middle, which was a bit risky because he'd bring a Grimnir, but I was kind of like, the other secondaries are really bad, he doesn't give up any kill ones because it's like Votan. I probably could have just took like something like behind enemy lines, although I can't remember if that competes with spread. I'm not sure. But I took...
spread... Oh, it might do, actually. No, it's Despoiled Ground behind enemy lines.
Is it? Okay, well, I took Despoiled anyway. I took Despoiled, Spread, and Warp Ritual. I thought, I got 2 casters, I should be alright. Like, just to keep out range in it. I could get my guy bodyguarded and within 6 of the middle. So I was like, okay, I can get some casts off, and even if I get like 2 off, his objectives, his secondaries are really bad. So like, if I only get 8 on it, it's not the worst in the world. He obviously went to use his bikes quite early. My thought in my head was kill the bikes. As soon as I kill the bikes, like, all he's got is like 2 battle buses. That's basically it then. Thunderkin coming on reserves. There's honestly not much you can do apart like screen it out. Like, that's all you can do really.
You can't affect their movement, can you? Either with your Expo stuff, or they're like Death Guard, where they're just
exactly
9 inch to 9 inch.
Yeah, so it's just like
deep strike.
Yeah.
Charge.
So I was basically, my entire goal was get rid of the bikes first, try and get the Blightlords into his backfield and kill him off his home because he only had 10 half kit on the back. They're not that hard to kill. And then basically he's then got like 2 buses to play objectives with. If he tries to come for any of the central ones, I'll have the 10 Plague Marine blob in the Rhino to come out and kill it in close combat, hopefully. +1 to wound strat does help. And I had my Plague Burst Crawlers, which I was like, okay, I'm just going to mortar, the bikes every turn if they try and hide. My Contemptor can shoot any bikes it sees. Contemptor again just picked up bikes. Like, if Contemptor got line of sight on bikes, it was just bye-bye.
Nice.
Love the Contemptor. My Plague Burst Crawlers did absolutely nothing.
I mean, this is something we'll have to unpack, actually. I mean, we'll keep going them. I'd like to hear ping the PBCs, because I've for a while been out of love with them, but I know that a lot of people are still sort of finding success. But we can unpack that afterwards, because that's something I think we should sort of expand on the conversation a little bit with that one.
Until turn 4, they did.
Oh, there you go.
This was doing my head in so much. So all game, I was firing mortars at bikes. Couldn't reroll the 1s to wound. Got so many 1s. I was like, oh, this is so irritating. Obviously, they've still got armor contempt plus the line of sight saves, so they're saving on like the 4s still. I'm just like, this is getting really annoying now. -1 to hit because they can do it on for a CP, so I'm hitting on 5s because it stacks with the dense. Line of sight because obviously it's -1 ballistic skill. So they were doing absolutely nothing. So I was like, turn 3, they've done absolutely nothing. So I'm like, right, I think this is the time now to drop these plague burst crawlers. And then the fortress came out, and I was like, fuck it, let's just shoot the entropies at it. So 4 shots going through dense, hitting on 4s because both plague burst crawlers are shooting at you. So 4 shots hitting on 4s, 4 hits. All right, that's lucky. Okay, wounded on 4s because it's T8 and I'm strength 8. 4 wounds. All right, that's really lucky. 4 invulns, please. Fails them all. Here's it.
9.
No, that's only for Urani Suitor regulars.
Ah, right, okay, yeah.
So 4 wounds hit him, and then he fails every single invuln, and they one-shot it. And I'm just like, really?
Like, even with the -1 damage, wow. Had it taken a few plink wounds elsewhere in the game,
nope.
had it?
No, so it hasn't got -1. It just has can reduce 1 damage to 0. So my first entry rolled a 6 on damage, he reduced it to 0. And I was like, okay, that's a good choice to reduce that. My second one, 6 damage. My third one, 6 damage. My fourth one, 6 damage.
Whoa! I mean, that is a stroke of luck. That is.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
if they'd had 3 turns of being a bit whack, that sounds like they were making up for it hard.
Yeah, now obviously I understand that was mega lucky, so it's not like it's not redeemed them, and like we'll talk about that in the list changes after, but it was just funny to be sat there and be like, yeah, no, it's time to drop the plague scrolls, and then they do something like that, and you're just like, you bastards.
It's like they know, isn't it? It's like they're there, they're like, no, please, Daddy, please, no, we can do it, we can.
I literally had 10 plague marines ready to charge this fortress, and then it just exploded, and we just stood there like, alright, but it betrayed me, Will. It betrayed me. Because I had, at that point, cast Warp Ritual once.
Oh, don't tell me you whiffed Warp Ritual.
No, worse. I blew up the Hecaton. The Hecaton exploded and dealt 6 mortal wounds to both of my casters.
Oh, mate, no! Oh, no, so what happened with that second then? What was the final Warp Ritual total?
I got 1 off. Was it 2 points?
Is it? I think it might. No, is it 3?
It might be 3. It wasn't good.
Oh yeah, I don't even know what 1 Warp Ritual is. If you get 1 Warp Ritual, you're generally you're generally too sad to even look at what the points are. It's right to 0. Right to 0. Walk away.
Yeah, it wasn't good. But on the bright side, like I managed to max the spoiled and I managed to max spread. Basically, once that fortress went down, all his bikes were also dead. All I did is keep putting Miasma Pestilence on a Plague Burst crawler, driving it right up to his remaining Hecaton. Obviously, the Berserkers got out the destroyed Hecaton, and then they ate a load of grenades because my 10 Plague Marines were just stood there, so I just grenaded him to death. I was like, alright then.
Nice. So even not being able to reroll the wound, you managed to just sort of like
I had good CPs left, so I was like, I'll vets it as well, so I'm wounded on 3s. When, nice. Just the amount of shots with Taliban and stuff going on. Plus, I had like the Lord of Irreliness to still spray and all that, so like and all the melter guns, etc. in the squad. Just there's only so much you can take.
Yeah, just lots.
They took a lot though. God, 5 pinball into a field of pain is so annoying.
Oh mate, tell me about it.
They did eventually go down. So all I did then, from then on, is the remaining Hecaton bus. I put my asthma on a Plague Bus crawl every turn and drove into it every single turn. And every single turn, I would just Cloud of Flies on whatever needed to hold the middle objective. 10 Plague Marines, Cloud of Flies.
Nice.
Had to shoot a -1 to hit Hecaton. It wasn't far enough away that he got double hits in the conversion beamer, and then he got some lucky on some invulns, and I kept charging it and just keep bumping into it.
That's a good. So you've said something there a few times. It's something which I actually struggle with. I think more than you do, which is probably more because I think you sort of think about things probably more, more than sort of just what's happening in front of you, maybe it's 2 or 3 turns ahead. Is CP management, because I found recently, I've had a couple of games and my tallyman has just decided he cannot count any bananas, and and he's been a bit frustrating because I've started with 0 CP in my current list because I did put the Contemptor back in, which is something we can talk about when we come to the list, because I have to agree, I am a Contemptor convert again.
That's so good.
I know, but that's because you're obviously, you Cloud of Flies and sounds like every turn or every other turn, but then you still throw them the grenades. And how do you find, what's your thought process with the CP? Is it just that the Tallyman sort of is a bit more on point for you, or are you finding that, you sort of really having to sort of, like, what's the thought process? I think that's something that's interesting to break down.
Well, I don't tend to, like, I got like that game. I didn't drop any tally man, which is obviously nice, but because he was like a low movement army and sort of like I got a good advance and off the roll on my Rhino and got it into the L really safely, really early. So like the first like 2 turns, I don't think I spent anything.
She's got like a nice bank.
Yeah, I put Poxwalkers onto the more open point, trailing back into the L. So like if he tried to shoot me bikes, all it takes is 1 to survive, and we can string it back out onto it. He played very conservatively, just wanted to hold his own free, didn't really take any shots because his bikes didn't have the range. He'd have to get a battle bus out, and I think he was a bit too scared of entry cannons. I mean, turn 3 would say yeah, should be, but on average, you shouldn't be that scared of him. So he did the same. He brought his bikes out onto his open, but then my Contemptor was just like, yeah, I'm just gonna blow them away. And this was the heavy bolter Contemptor as well. Obviously terrible in this matchup because. That's the only problem I've got. The heavy bolter Contemptor, it's really bad versus Votan because AP1 again means nothing. That you don't get the mortal wounds, you got less shots, and you can't even like turn them into plague weapons because they can't reroll wounds against Votan. But again, which really annoyed me because I was still excited to try it again. I was like, here goes the secret tech, and then I was like, it doesn't work.
So just to fill in a gap for people who maybe missed the first or second episode, Aidan has some secret tech, the Contemptor, where he's turning, instead of taking Volkites, he's putting heavy bolters on and then turn them into plague weapons to score fleeing vectors. So just to sort of fill in the gaps there. So obviously, I suppose this is also an instance where I guess it's in the list because there are games where you can score good points on it. But I mean, how have you found? Because I find that fleeing vectors is such a sort of swingy secondary. Like I say, guard took against guard, and yeah, it's a great secondary. Don't get me wrong, but then. I just played Custodes this afternoon, had a friendly game, and yeah, I mean, fleeing vectors, you'd never take against Custodes.
Yeah, I think as the meta's sort of like developing, and we're seeing a lot more like Iron Hands, Dark Angels list, I think fleeing's kind of going down in its value, which kind of sucks. It's a good secondary, but it is still matchup dependent. So like in the list changes we'll go on again when we go about later. I have gone back to Volkite just for now. I still think the heavy bolter tech is there, and it's very cool to have. But it's also something else that's changed in the list that's also like contributed as a factor towards that. Again, we'll talk about it when we get there. Yeah. But yeah, from then on, like I said, just to wrap that game up, basically with all his bikes dead, had his backfield with the flesh mower drone cleared. His Thunder King came in, shot the Blightlords, dropped them to like 3 guys, and then I just tied up in combat for the rest of the game. 3 Blightlords didn't kill the Thunder King because they don't hurt. Again, another reason why I was just like, yeah, even when they make it, they just kind of suck. But. And then the other Thunder King came in, went to shoot a Plague Burst Crawler, but it didn't have any tokens on it, so they couldn't really do anything to it, and then it just ran into them and just kept them there all game, basically. And then, yeah, we just kind of sat on points, kept Clouds of Flying every turn on the bus that was left as soon as he finally killed the Plague Burst Crawler, which was turn 4. He had 1 turn left, obviously, so it was like, okay, I'll just put the Rhino in front of it now, and Cloud of Flies.
Nice. So is that kind of how you found? Because obviously, when I sort of explained the content, I also cut you off there when you're talking about CP spend. So when you're thinking about your CP, because it sounds like you built up like a nice sort of stock from the earlier turns, and you hadn't needed to spend as many. But then, because obviously Cloud of Flies is, it's quite a big sort of expense to spend 2 CP every opponent shooting phase.
Yeah, there was a point in the game where I was debating doing it on some Terminator on the Blightlords when his Vector went to dump load of shots into them. When I was just looking at 4 CP, I was just like, the last 2 turns just doing it on Plague Brains, and I just let him shoot the Terminators in the end, and that's another reason why I'm off Blightlords as well, because I can't stomach 4 CP for Cloud of Flies. It's just grim. But basically, yeah, in this matchup, like there wasn't actually like massive amounts of CP to use. Like what his bikes died quite quick because they're quite squishy, and like I wasn't gonna give +1 to hit to Terminators, so. Like, they didn't really need any CP. I wasn't going to Cloud of Flies them, so they didn't need CP there. Disgusting force 3 damage on the mortar. Again, the whiffing that they were doing, I wasn't spending it on that.
I find that Disgusting force 3 damage on the mortar is sometimes a bit of a trap. I mean, fair play when you have loads, but as soon as you've spent the CP on that, on making it 3 damage, if you roll a 1 on the shots, you also re-roll the 1. I think it may as well be 2 CP.
That's what I was going to say. I think if at any time you use Disgusting Force, you basically just treat it as 2 CP at that point and just deal with it from there. But yeah, basically, like, I just know when I come across armies that have these big models with like 1 million guns on them, it's still 1 activation, and that activation can be shut down by Cloudfly. So I do it versus knights, or against like Imperial Knights with any big knights. again, kill everything around it, leave one big knight alive, and then just control it with Cloud of Flies for the rest of the game. And it's really good against those anything that's got like these big models with lots of guns. They're tough to kill, especially like the fortress. Just don't bother trying to kill it, just control it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So say, for example, I use, for example, the Death Guard list I've been running, where I don't have a huge amount of fire. I suppose not many Death Guard lists do these days. So you're kind of relying on the fact, well, there's 2 shooting units. If I Cloud of Flies, say to Rhino, if I Cloud of Flies this Plague Marine squad, put the Rhino in front, it's likely you have to shoot one of the shooting units, and if even the Rhino lives on 1 wound, unless there's something else that can clear that one, the second one also has to go into it, and at that point they might just not bother shooting the place. You're kind of punishing armies that don't bring, because that's, I suppose, it's a tactic that get, but again, say like a Tau gun line, they're just going to go, Cloud of Flies as much as you want me. That Rhino's dead, and then I'm going to shoot the rest of my army into it. So I suppose, is it very matchup dependent when you sort of run through those thought processes?
It depends. If they're running like lots of cheap small units, it becomes a lot less effective because obviously, activation burn, which we talked about, is obviously when units activate, they have to declare all the attacks at once, etc. So when you're against MSU, they have a lot of activations to burn, so Cloud of Flies is less effective. But let's say, for example, you went against, let's just say stupidly, like a free Castellan list, like a free Knight Castellan list, which obviously is shit, but hypothetically, if your Rhino, your Rhino takes one of those from a Cloud of Flies, that's 33% of an army's output gone. If it somehow magically in the goddamn universe lives, you've now burned the next one, so 66% of the army shooting is burned on a Rhino.
God forbid anyone
whereas against MSU... you come across a Titan, you win the game because you just go, Cloud of Flies that, Cloud of Flies that, Cloud of Flies that.
All your guns can kill this Rhino and this 5-man Plague Marine squad that's literally just behind it, just outside of 12 inches. Nah, not a chance.
Balance. But yeah, so that's sort of how I approached that game and learned a lot from it. Obviously, I think Votann, I play Votann as well, and my opponents haven't enjoyed those games, and I can totally see why. I feel like half the Votann rulebook is telling the opponent they can't use their rules, which I just think is toxic design.
I think weirdly, this is going to be a good segue. I wish I hadn't have announced that there, but I'm going to claim it, because obviously they're a bit of a rock paper scissors army, so that's kind of why they're a weird faction, aren't they? But another rock paper scissors army, World Eaters.
What a convenient segue that was, sir.
I know, I'll take a bow. There you go. But talking of World Eaters, then, what are your first opinions of them, Aidan? Because I feel like your sort of hot takes on them will have a lot more value than mine. Okay, so when I first saw the book, I was like, wow, this is garbage, but only for like a different way. I think it's a slight little rant from me. I think in terms of design wise, no sub factions, etc. I don't like that, but whatever. But when you actually look at the actual book, it works, and it works really well. It's very fast, very hard hitting. Lord Invocatus' pre-game move is absolutely bonkers. I think I have to say, I know it's like, I know Warhammer isn't real. Do you know what I mean? It's not like, blah blah blah. But that flying Juggernaut rule, it just, I think it's so stupid.
It's amazing.
Do you like it? I just think it's like I say, I feel like just they got the end of the book and realised nothing had fly, so they just close their eyes, flick the page, stop the finger in him, remember he's got fly now, and then we're finished for the day.
Have you read the lore reason, Will? Have you read the lore reason in the book?
Because he flies on, is it wings of fire or
a bridge of Bifrost of fire?
Man.
It's amazing. I love it so much. But his obviously, he gives the army a lot of speed. 8-bounder, absolutely nuts. Blood Scent for Composer, because he's a really cool, fun rule. It's a rush down. Angron, I think, he's weird. He's a boring model rules wise, but the fact he keeps coming back is kind of what makes him fun. It's the ultimate Zug army. You just kind of run it down and have a laugh with it. And the weird thing is, I prefer it to Votann though, because it's a book that thrives off opponent interaction.
That's
fair. You get points for dying, you get points for killing, and then it's not like I think it was the Goonhammer article earlier this week, and they were basically lamenting how Dark Ninjas are good because it's a pure Deathwing list that does nothing but just sit there and score points, and it's the most boring thing in the planet. And it's I would rather have someone running me down, putting massive pressure on me, and having to like murder them back, and just having that engagement between us. So weirdly, when I first looked at the book, I was down. I was like, oh, there's no sub factions, the relics are shit, the wall chase is shit, you can't take any extra. But then when you actually see it play, it's actually kind of funny. It's quite fun.
Because it's kind of, I feel like it's maybe giving a snapshot of 10th, because it seems, I don't know if it's even been confirmed.
I agree.
It's the last codex. I don't know how I feel about some things in it, like the lack of, because obviously there's only a few stratagems and things like that. I mean, Death Guard's a prime example. There's so many strats in there that I don't think I've ever used, but then at the same time there's so many that I've never used because I don't think about them in the moment. There's a few that I've started using. The more we've sort of like chatted about them. The one where you've got a guy in engagement, like a character, and if he's still alive, obviously you can take a wound, then deal 2d3 mortal wounds to an opponent. So
I've used that one a little bit. You know which one I've never used? The one where you have to pick a character that has a relic of decay, and every enemy unit within 6 takes 1 mortal wound on a 2-up.
Well, this
wow.
is this is what I mean, innit? Like they've kind of got all those weird stratagems where I like the fact that World Eaters, maybe it's a new archetype, because obviously Chaos Demons were the same once you put them in the individual gods, whether it's 6 or 7. Maybe that's going to be really good for Death Guard. I don't know. It's kind of interesting that it's focusing a lot more on the data sheets, which obviously when we're talking about World Eaters, I mean 8 bounds, my god, they're
bonkers.
But they're made of paper. This is the thing I found really weird about them. So when I played against them, everything that they touched, they smashed. I mean, -1 damage, to be honest, it didn't really seem to make a huge difference because they just had so many attacks. But they just, I mean, the grenade strat from the Plague Marines, like Plague Marines could quite comfortably cleave through. So I think they killed. So I threw grenades into one squad of 3, which I think is the exalted one. Because have a 3-up save normally, and obviously even when you without any other contagions, in the extra 1 AP push them to the invuln of 4, 2 damage each. I think they've got 3 or 4 wounds.
Yeah, 3 each. Yeah.
Yes, and one sort of like good.
Oh yeah, they die. They proper die.
Yeah, and then the Plague Marines from the charge a squad of Corn Berserkers. And then the flail of corruption still kills Corn Berserkers like it always used to. The flail of corruption on its own killed 3 or 4, and then the cleaver. Before you even get the power fist, and then the random sort of like just general plague knives.
Yeah, I think Death Guard in general are really like, we've always been good at killing Marines. We know this blight launchers are amazing at killing Marines. Grenade stats amazing. Flails amazing. Like so much 2 damage. And obviously when you start getting to 8 bound, okay, it's 3 damage, but we have so many bloody attacks at this point. So many good quality attacks. Like picking up Marines for us it's so easy.
Yeah, one thing I would say, because obviously we kind of joked at the end of the asset was foul blightspawn, and to be honest, the foul blightspawn is key in that matchup, because being able to swing, shutting off their charge, and any charge bonuses that come with it is mega. But the one thing you've got to be wary of with them, and you want to try and bait this out if you can, or try and sort of, I don't know, I was trying to work out how to avoid it, because they've got the 1 CP fight on death. So generally,
that's a big problem.
Yeah, I found they charged into Foul Blightspawn aura, and they were like, yeah, I don't really care if I die or live, doesn't matter, because when I do die, I'm going to swing into you anyway, and I'm just going to, go do it that way, go around the houses instead.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, World Eaters players know their units aren't going to like return, so like the only difference is it's died in that turn rather than the person's next turn. Like that unit, like they don't expect to charge something that unit then survive, being attacked and then go again. They know it's going to die, so like Foul Blightspawn, it's good because it does turn off the extra attack and the extra strength because they don't count as having made a charge. The only other thing you've really got to be worried of, and people need to be aware of this, is for example, you have a Foul Blightspawn and some Marines. They can obviously charge into your aura, and then they can actually string out the charge into, like, let's say next to a character or next to like another unit you want. You'll activate first, kill them. They can then fight on death, pile into anything that's the closest, so it could be the Foul Blightspawn itself, not the unit they charge particularly.
Because you don't count as charging.
Because you don't count have made a charge, so they can actually swing in at anything, and then potentially kill your Foul Blightspawn, kill something else, kill like a Contemptor if you left it too close. So when you're actually playing against like World Eaters and you do take the Foul Blightspawn with the Viscenge Bats, it can be used against you, and I've done it to like the mirror matches before. I've used it against them, but Fight on Death makes it even easier, so people need to be really careful. It's a good relic. It's still like, it guarantees you don't just get wiped. You at least trade back. But you are right, Will. They will always just run into it, say, yeah, I don't care, I'll fight on death, and they'll just do the trade. Now the good thing for us in that is, though, because they've kind of came out after chapter approved, their Corn Berserkers are still like a little pricey. So Plague Marines being as cheap they are, trade up really nicely.
The Predators are weirdly expensive as well because you have to still pay for the war gear on them, which I think is quite comical and everyone else does. So that's just a little anecdote. But I did also want to mention there, because I think the Foul Blightspawn thing is probably something that's quite important, because I think a lot of Death Guard players probably don't realise what we're talking about. They probably think, what Foul Blightspawn use against you, like it's amazing. So the problem is when it switches off the charge, things that are in engagement range when they haven't been charged, like an existing combat, they can then swing into anything that's within an engagement range, whether they charged it or not. So the reason it works is, so say Aiden's example is, say they've charged a Rhino, and I don't know, this next to your Foul Blightspawn, not that you'd ever keep a Rhino next to your Foul Blightspawn, but I don't know, then Foul Blights, basically, if they can touch something from the charge and finish in the Foul Blightspawn's aura, you'll get to fight them first, which is why I don't put a Rhino next to them, because if they charge a Rhino, the Rhino hitting on sixes is not going to hurt them. And if they can get a juicy target that they, otherwise, it's probably quite hard to explain. It's maybe something that, if people have got a lot of questions or something, maybe we could find someone, maybe doing an explanation video on YouTube, or maybe we can make one ourselves, with an iPhone to show you how it works. But it is something, if anyone ever games it against you, unfortunately, it's a core rules mechanic that's being exploited there.
So I'll try and explain the best I can. So when you turn off charging, you turn off all the benefits, but you also turn off the disadvantages, because when you make a charge move, the core rules say you can only make melee attacks against a unit that you declared a charge against and successfully made. So when you no longer count as charging, you then default back to the standard rules of being able to fight anything that's within engagement range. So theorize in your head, you have a line of 5 Plague Marines. Okay, behind that line of 5 is a Foul Blightspawn, and next to both of those units is a Chaos Rhino. The World Eater player will charge the Rhino. Let's say he's got like 5 8-bound. He will put 1 8-bound within an inch of the Rhino within engagement range. The others will string out and be just in front of your Plague Marines, but an inch away. So they're not in engagement range of the Plague Marines, but they are within engagement range. They are within range of the Stench Vat's aura. So at this point, you have 4 8-bound over an inch away from Plague Marines, so they're not in combat. 1 in engagement with the Rhino. The Rhino will strike first. Again, as Will said, it's a Rhino, it's not going to do anything. Then the 8-bound will activate. They will pile into the closest enemy unit, which at this point, for one of them, is the Rhino that's in engagement with. But for the other 4, it will be the 1 inch away Plague Marines. They will then pile into engagement range with the Plague Marines, and because they no longer count as having made a charge move, they are free to swing into them. And now they have wiped all your Plague Marines, even though, theoretically, you would have thought in your head, you get to swing first, they're unchargeable. That's the best way I can imagine it. So
yeah, and it's something that's, this isn't just against World Eaters. Obviously, any army can do it. It's the reason why I know Aidan doesn't take the Foul Blightspawn. I mean, my argument is, just make sure the Foul Blightspawn's bubble up with something that, is going to look after it. But it is an unfortunate downside of the Foul Blightspawn, and why, there's different there. But it isn't the only way to face, World Eaters. I mean, one of the things is, of course, just good old-fashioned screening, and also transports. Because the reality is, with Worlds, and also keeping, as we mentioned earlier in this episode, keeping 2 CP so you can interrupt into them. Because they do die. I think what you've got to do with them is, they're not good at killing transports and also what's inside. And again, this is also something to be aware with transports. Don't forget about emergency disembark. Because they might wrap the Rhino and you think, oh God, then it doesn't matter then, I'm just going to lose all these guys, I can't place them. If you've got a CP, get them out 6 inches. You can even use that sometimes to steal a sneaky objective, because you can get the extra move and maybe obsec it with something. So Rhinos are really good because they don't have a lot of shooting. They're not an army that's going to pop your Rhino at range and then be able to sort of charge the contents. And again, that's also where the emergency disembark might come in. Maybe it's emergency disembark a little bit further away to extend that charge. And maybe if you're an expo, then if you've got another CP, you can extend the range by 2 inches as well. So there's things you can do there. And also good old-fashioned Poxwalkers. Poxwalkers are a bit of a dodgy screen because unfortunately they only move 4 inches. So say they're in front of even some Plague Marines, they might end up slowing the Plague Marines down. But there's an argument perhaps for bringing cultists back for that reason. But then I suppose they do have a lot of bolters, World Eaters, so maybe cultists aren't the answer. But I think good old-fashioned screening is another thing, and another thing that I found when I played them, just kill anything you can. I don't know if anyone's listening remembers the old Drakari at the start of the edition, and it just obviously World Eaters are not Drakari, they don't have endless amounts of units, and they do sort of whittle down, but you just want to start trading with them as soon as you can. It's an army where the guy that I played against, he's on our team, and he's a guy who's sort of getting into competitive play, so he made a mistake which I actually helped him and correct him before the game, which is something. He basically did his pre-game move, just moved the full pre-game move as close as he could get to me. Some things were finishing like 9 inches away and stuff like that. And then, but at this point, I was going first. So I kind of point out, look, don't finish 9 inches away from me because I'll move 5
I'll
inches.
just kill you.
Yeah. I'll kill you before you get a chance. Measure your charges. I'm going to move 5. You might want to make sure at least a 9-inch charge. So make sure you're at least 14 inches away, especially when you're quicker than me and you can close that gap yourself. So he was quite grateful for that. But if you're at a tournament or something, it's not a practice game. You don't have to tell your opponent, and in fact, don't tell your opponent if they're going to do that, and you go first. Take advantage, just draw that first blood, and hopefully do such a big punch that they find themselves on the back foot, because we do kill World Eaters really easily. Unfortunately, as much as we're resilient, they do kill us back just as easily. But there's a good trading game you have there, and it was a fun game. It was close, and that's something I would. That was my 2 cents. But I don't know if you've got anything else to add there, Aidan. Anything?
Yeah, no. I think the initial impact people have against World Eaters is to sort of like play defensive, obviously. But one thing people need to remember is World Eaters have really good secondaries, like really, really good. Like they can trade blood tithe for victory points. If something dies at the start of the turn on an objective, whether it's enemy or ally, they get VP. Like they're really easy to score high. Now the interesting thing about World Eaters though is they have very good secondaries, very strong secondaries, but they do require interaction with your opponent, which is great for you and your opponent. Like I'd much rather have that than this thing sits behind a wall for 5 turns and scores 15. Like the interaction is great. So what you have to do though, and I was talking to Don Hoos about this as well, and he's found it in his games, it's what you said, Will. Don't just try and sit there and be like, okay, here comes the red tide, I'm going to try and hold it off, because they'll just beat you. They'll just beat you down in primal, and then their secondaries will just take over the game. You have to be aggressive as well. Like, the World Eaters want to fight, you got to fight them back. And that's the way Death Guard can do it, because we have, as you said, Will, 95-point Plague Marines that can easily wipe out units of 8-bound.
Easily. One Flail of Corruption can still easily take out 5 Khorne Berserkers,
Easy.
So there was actually 2 other things to add there, and this is something that I've just thought about. One is, and this is something where I'll let Aidan expand on this second point, because he is the master of this, way better than I am, is obviously layers and, counter charge and putting units forward, but then making sure you got another one to come in and sort of clear and, play the trading game. Another one that I thought of, by the way, and this is something I just thought of right now, I didn't do this in my game. Look at the mission you play in, see if it's sticky objectives, because a lot of the Khorne stuff, they want to kill things on objectives. If it's sticky objectives, once you've stickied it, move off, and say it's 5 Plague Marines, screen it. So they kill it, you're not on the objective, and you might
That's
even
really
make
clever.
it so they can't pile on. Yeah, just thought of that now, so there you go.
That's really clever.
Yeah. So,
I didn't even think of that. That's genius.
There you go. So sticky objectives, you can sticky them, move off them. And move off them, and even if you move towards and make a screen, maybe if you can make so they kill you and can't pile on. But that's something that there. But I mean, I'll let you expand on it, because obviously you're your layers counter charge. You play without the foul blightspawn, and I know you're the master at this.
Yeah. So I think the actual way to beat World Eaters is mainly it's a mixture of, like you said, layers. It's a mixture of setting up firing arcs, and also a mixture of pre-measuring. Like pre-measuring against World Eaters is huge, and also it's why I play inexorable. And if you are playing against World Eaters, -2 to charge is really helpful, because they have no way to ignore it unless they are playing Disciples of the Red Angel. Well, that's like the old demon list. That's a bit weird.
They've got +1/2 charge, don't they, themselves?
Yeah.
I suppose it's probably, but then that's coming regardless. You make it 2 inches bigger or not. So. You are right.
But like,
still.
if they bring anger on, you can every turn. If you kill him and he keeps deep striking back in, you can at least drop him to a 10 requirement. Even with the +1, it's a 10. Like, really good control. pre-measuring out those distances to make sure every time you want him to try the charge, because you don't want to just sit there and do nothing, but you want to make sure like basically if he comes in, like say he wants like trying the sweet spot's usually like 8-inch charge, because dropping it to a 10 is extremely unlikely. But then obviously if he's 8 away and fails it, you have a 5-inch move towards him, you got 3-inch charge, which is now like 2 inches, like, and then obviously you kill him. So layering up is important. Obviously he's going to be mega aggressive, he's going to come into you. Make sure you've always got a counter charge set up, so if you have one unit at the front that's going to probably get charged, make sure you have another unit about 9ish inches away from them. Then obviously you move your 5 forward and you're at 4-inch charge there.
That's where flesh mowers are really good as well.
That's another reason I'm like on this flesh mower thing, because obviously they have a 10-inch move. They also have the heroic intervention, just really good for getting around and helping out. With your chaos rhinos, for example, you said about before about like if you get wrapped, you can emergency disembark. That's great. If they try to wrap your rhino and just hug it, so they don't want to kill it, so they'll put one guy in engagement range that will hurt it but not kill it, and everyone wants to just wrap around it. Again, make sure you've got another unit 9 inches away from that rhino, so if they want to tag your rhino, thanks for the free kill, mate.
Yeah. I mean, that's another thing as well, is actually, I was going to say about, auto exploring around and doing mortals and stuff, which is obviously something they're doing. I think they can ignore mortals, so I think they've got a blood tide to do it, haven't they?
Yeah, they do have blood tide to do it, but they're unlikely to take it against us, really, because, I mean, they might, it depends once they've been hit by a biologist for the first time, the mortal wounds, maybe they'll consider it then, but it seems to be like a low priority for them. They always sort of get like the +1 to charge, and if they brought Angron, they're just going to go, oh, 6, 6, 6, 6, on Angron.
But I mean, the other thing is the blood tide points is a savvy World Eaters player is going to spend his blood tide points on that secondary. They'll do the important things, like we're talking about you with your CP, important spends, doing it and what's right, what's important.
Yeah, +1 to charge is just going to be the first thing they do every time.
Yeah, which is why I think Angron is going to be a terror, and depending if you go to a tournament, and this is maybe where the Death Guard stuff comes in. I mean, obviously we've got people, Aidan being the prime example, and other people who are sort of pushing those top tables, but people like myself, the 3-2, maybe he's pushing for a 4-1 kind of guys. We're probably going to be the mid tables, and that's where Angron's going to be sort of hanging around a little bit more. So we might have to sort of face him at events a bit more than others do. Because I think the 8-bound spam lists are the ones that are going to be the sort of like the better lists. And again, if they're bringing Angron back with the blood type points, they're probably not scoring as well on the secondary. So that's kind of like a sort of, that's a bit of a trade-off.
And to be honest, if you are against Angron, and they want to keep doing that again, if you've picked Inexorable as your play company, just keep a CP every turn, drop him to that 10-inch charge, and if they want to keep bringing him back and failing 10-inch charges, be my guest, I'll keep killing him every turn.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it?
Like, killing Angron is not hard for us, it's really not. Like, no -1 damage, only a 2-up save, we can get extra AP, you can pick up pretty quick, but I think for us versus World Eaters, we do have to, like, get into that fight, because we need to get, we gotta get spread the sickness going, which means we need to get like at least 3 objectives, but they're going to be on top of us. The only way you can't sit back, you've got to push back, you've got to break out. But I think once you start actually breaking out, like you said, the rate World Eaters do die at to our weapons, because our weapons are really nasty versus them.
I mean, the -1 toughness and and the fact we've got loads of damage too.
You eat them alive.
Oh, actually, I just thought one more thing is also really important with World Eaters as well, is that moving towards your mechanic. There's 2 things to do with the moving towards your mechanic. One, so the moving towards your mechanic is when you shoot them, they get to move towards. I can't move to D6 or just to move.
D6, yeah.
D6. But they've got to go directly. Just as the crow flies, they can't like zigzag behind cover or anything like that. Their codex is specifically like a straight line. The one, be stringent on that. Don't let them kind of like, zig into a building or zag, on the sort of like -1 cover. They're not allowed to do that. But secondly, because they are closing the gap and they can finish in engagement range. So say you're 3 inches away from them and they move into you, I think it counts as some charging. I'm not sure how that interaction works.
Yeah, it does count them as charging, I believe.
So basically, only shoot at a unit if you think you can actually kill it. So don't, like, for example, if you've got the sorcerer's like bolt pistol or something.
Oh, I'm going to counter this argument. I have it's the counter this argument.
Oh, so, go on then.
One slight caveat, and this is this is going to piss off so many World Eaters players. So if you pull this off at some point in a game, listener, viewer, whoever you are, please let me know in the comments, because I'm going to do it to a World Eater player. I'm going to ruin their day.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a Plague Marine unit like 3 inches away from some Khorne Berserker squad. Sure. And then I'm going to shoot it with a sorcerer with a pistol, like you said. And he's going to be like, I'm going to now consolidate and go into engagement range with your Plague Marines. And I'm going to let him, and then as soon as he's in there, I'm going to pay 1 CP for the Blightning and drop 18 auto-hitting grenades in his face because he's now in engagement range.
Oh, clever, because it's still the movement phase. I like that one. I do like that one.
Yep, still in the shooting phase, so you're getting grenaded in combat. So anyone doesn't know this Blightning strat, it's the grenade strat where you can change 3 grenades in your army to pistol 6, and they auto-hit in engagement range. So obviously you tap a Khorne Berserker with a pistol, he blood surges with blood sent into engagement range with your Plague Marine unit. You're now free to then use that stratagem to get 18 free. Obviously you're going to have your Biological Putrefier in range, strength 4, AP 1, 2 damage. It's just going to pick them up instantly, and then you're free to go and charge another unit if you want afterwards.
Nice, see, there you go.
But yeah, generically, do not shoot them unless you're going to kill them. If you're going to get if they're just going to get a free touch on like a character or something, yeah, don't do it. If you're going to do it into Plague Marines, do it for the memes, and then just laugh at them and let me know so I can laugh at them with you, and then we can just say how shit Khorne is and laugh and nurgle.
There you go. Yeah, should remind me who the best Chaos God is. But I mean, for me at least, I'm sort of, I think that kind of covers World Eaters as much as we can do as a broad spectrum without going into like really like niche interactions and stuff like that. So I think that probably comes to the grand unveiling of your listing. I feel like, you're going to have to lift the curtain. Should I do a drum roll?
Well, I'm just going to put one more point on that previous one.
Oh, go on. Oh, I can't
so just a few things we have to look out for. Obviously, Lord Invocatus gives 3 units a pre-game move. Now, one thing to be aware of for any people that are bringing Nurgle Demon allies and have brought some Nurglings, unlike every other pre-game move in the game, theirs doesn't state they have to stay 9 inches away from a target.
Oh, yeah, good job you said that.
Which is, like, huge. So it means, like, because normally people like Guard would use Scout Sentinels and stuff like that, or, infiltrators to block any pre-game moves. Doesn't work versus World Eaters. They'll just take a free charge on you turn 1, happily. Like, if they can get within 3 inches of you, they can get within 3 inches of you. So, again, get used to pre-measuring versus World Eaters. Really get used to it, because you're gonna need to, and just sit on that -2 charge. Man, it's so hard. Honestly, there's not. It's weird because there's strategies to play against World Eaters, but because it's such a, it does what it does, and it is what it is. It's a brick, and it's just gonna slam you with that brick. It's not full of tricks. It's not full of like. It has tricks, don't worry, it has little things, like watch out for Heroic Intervention that they can do. I don't know if it's Terminator only.
That's another one, actually. I'll let you finish. I've got one more to be aware of, and that's Angron piling into stuff that you then can't fall back on to stop and shoot him. You want to make sure, if Angron's coming, you want to make sure the unit's around what you expect them to charge. Make sure I can't know if you pile. He just piles in 3, doesn't he? Doesn't pile in 6.
Yeah, he's just standard.
Yeah. So basically, make sure they're at least 4 inches away. Sorry, 4.1 millimeter away, because obviously 3 can bring you within an inch, so it has to be more than 4. Because if he does that, he has a piling strategy where he can pile in, and then that unit, he obviously doesn't fight them, but you can't fall back from him. So, it might even be that other units piled. So you might want to spread your army out a little bit. Again, going back to Aiden's layers. So when they hit the first layer, they're if they don't bounce into the second layer's ready and waiting for them. It's not sort of them who engages it with it first, because that's a big thing that Angron's going to do, and it's to be seen. I mean, if Angron ends up on top tables, it might be that interaction, because there's arguments, if it's played well, it could be a little bit broken, but at the same time, it's on one unit, it's a big model, it is quite easy to play around if you expect it.
Yeah, and I'd obviously got to go into the match at World Eaters, just obviously assume that anything that does get charged in combat's going to die. Obviously, if they really want to, they can red butt just +1 damage to the negate DR. But like Will said before, they have so many attacks, so much AP, chances are they'll kill it anyway, especially with Armor Contempt now, so always understand that any unit you charge with or put out there is going to die next turn. So again, when we talk about secondaries, like Will said before, for example, if the Khorne player, the World Eaters player, has units on an objective, you're going to charge them, you're going to kill them, he's going to get his secondary points because a unit died that was on objective, which is his unit. At that point, if you can consolidate off the objective, do it, because you're going to die anyway, and at least you're not dying on starting the turn on an objective, so you deny secondaries.
Yeah.
Like,
Also,
think about these small movements, because you're going to die anyway. Like, regardless of whether it paddles into the objective or paddles off, it's going to die. So it'd be better to die and not give up secondaries rather than die and give up secondaries.
Talking about seconds as well, this is another one. Again, this isn't really new. This isn't a new World Eaters thing. It's been around for a while. It's also Chaos Space means other armies have this, but they do have the 4-up deny stratagem.
Yes. So psychic, no do psychic objective.
I mean, sometimes the third secondary is really hard to find. You know, obviously, no prisoners is really good against World Eaters. They'll generally give it like at least 10, if not a bit more. So often they're giving you that third secondary. But if you do opt for a psychic one, be aware of the 4-up deny. I mean, really take it if you're really scraping the barrel and you've just got to take something and you don't want to do like engage, or you think Despoil could be dodgy because you might not have enough units left. Whatever the reason is, just remember they've got the 4-up deny. Don't take it and then find out halfway through the first turn. Because if you're at a tournament, there's a good chance they're going to say, look, you know, you didn't ask the question, it's not my fault. You know, sorry, you've took that secondary now. If you score nothing on it, you know, just learn for your next game. And, you know, it might be a bit harsh to do that, but they'll also be well within their right. So just, you know, we've said it here for you now. So hopefully kind of just be aware of that going into your game. So if you do take a psychic secondary, just, you know, just sort of be aware that it might not look as good on paper as it is in reality. You know, when you think, oh, you haven't got any sort of psychers, you know, ask the question, you know, do you have any denies? Because it's not just about, you know, denies don't always come from psychers, I think is what we're trying to get, what I'm trying to get at there.
Yeah, I'm trying to find now. I'm just trying to quickly remind myself what the leadership of Jackal is. I'm just thinking about obviously secondary choices we could advise versus them.
Oh, yes, I know what you're getting at.
So all I want to check is if Jackals have low leadership, because if you have brought Plague Burst Crawlers, fleeing vectors can actually be pretty decent this matchup because they will be going so aggressive at you. It's quite easy to pick up 7 models, like 7 Berserkers, 7 something. But also if they've brought Jackals of any form, if they're like most cultist units with low leadership, and you've Plague Burst Crawlers, every turn put your mortars into them. I'll promise you it'll do more damage than you'll probably do put into 8 bound and stuff like that. And they'll either have to burn some CP when they can only do it once, or they'll give basically 5 victory points every turn for you. Yeah, I've done it versus your CSM when you tried them for a bit, Will. You know, and it paid off the 15. Like, that's a good second take. I think fleeing's not bad in general versus World Eaters. I think there's, you know, we have our Terminators that can give like -4 leadership in combat. The only thing is, like, when you kill World Eaters, you do kind of want to kill them dead. Like you said, you know, with the shooting, you don't really want to be leaving one, because as you said before, one blood, 1 8 bound, exalted 8 bound, if it's like, you know, damage 4 chain fist thing, that can go wreck so an entire unit death shot on its own.
Yeah, like, and also with flame vectors as well, you make a really good point there. But again, just don't forget to weigh it up versus no prisoners, because often World Eaters will have a good no prisoners score, and if you're going to be trading infantry, it might be that, you know, flame vectors could be there, but it's probably only there on the Jackals. Like, I don't think it'll be there on the 8. No, it's definitely almost certainly not there on the 8 bound, and very unlikely there on the Corn Berserkers. So if you're going to go down that route, as Aiden's right, it is a very strong strategy, but I'd say it's kind of might be pushing more to elite play. So it's kind of something where, for me personally, if they're going to give away 12 to 15 on no prisoners, I would probably go no prisoners. Whereas I know it's maybe someone like Aiden, he's seeing, I can get 15 points in the first 2-3 turns here, and then after that point, you know, I'm playing a different game. I'm not having to sort of like push to kill models that I don't need to, blah blah blah. So, you know, just weigh it up. You know, it's pros and cons, and, you know, it's different ways of thinking.
Yeah, and you're still taking spread the sickness.
Oh yeah. If you're not taking, I think there's one mission where you can raise 3 banners in the first turn. If you're playing at the Death Guard mirror match, you maybe take banners there because you're the Death Guard opponent. Probably by the time they're there, you probably scored 10 on it anyway. But I can't remember what that mission is. It's the weird one where it's the 6 objective one, but you can still score 8 for holding 2. So you never really see it at tournaments anyway.
I will say as well, these 8 bound spam lists. Do you remember 8 bound don't have OBSEC, everyone? So
unless they're in the Disciples one, they do.
Yeah, if they're in Disciples, obviously. I'm mainly talking not Disciples, because I think not Disciples is going to be the meta list, because obviously you lose stuff like Fight on Death, etc. So if you're against like Disciples, then Foul Blightspawn just like rockets in like value. Like,
yeah.
But so I imagine most are going to stay normal World Eaters, because they also have the 6-inch Heroic Intervention strat. Be aware of that. I think normal worldies in general are better than Dread Disciples. So I think stuff like OBSEC for us, obviously on our Terminators and our Plague Marines, Poxwalkers even, all it takes is one guy on there. It doesn't matter how aggro they can be again with the layers thing. You put like 10 Poxwalkers in front, okay, they come and kill them all. You have one Plague Marine survive, it's still yours. And you can then use that aggressively against them, which again we're gonna talk about very, very soon. My list will, because I might be taking War Dogs.
Ooh, okay, so I feel this is a good point to unpack that. Then this is something I'm interested to talk about. So, for obviously the background of people who don't know, I mean, obviously Aidan is the main host on this podcast alongside myself, and the reason that a lot of people probably tune in is because Aidan last year was the best in the world with Death Guard according to the ITC. Well, the ITC and I was going to say the UKTC and anywhere else that tracks points. So the reason I'm saying this, but you used the same list, didn't you, last year, pretty much consistently at events at least. And I know you've been trying a few things this time round, but it sounds like you've had some big changes, which is which it sounds like we're ready to unpack. So
yeah, so just to clarify that, I actually finished second in the world, but I got sniped from an LVO. A guy went LVO.
I didn't know that.
I didn't attend London, or obviously LVO myself. So to get second in the world, and it wasn't even that far off without attending like one of those mega events, is still like pretty pog. Like I'm pretty happy about that. Plus, I'm happy with that. Still first in the UK. Still, it felt like if anyone's listening to this now and's just tuned out because I'm not first, I'm sorry, forgive me, I'm a heretic.
I'm also going to say I've got, I think, quite a depressing fact about me, and I think this is also plays into well against Aidan. I have a worrying feeling that out of everyone in the world, and I mean everyone in all countries, I have a feeling that I probably attended more events with Death Guard than anyone else, because I played a lot of tournaments last year. I have a worrying feeling I might be that guy, and it might be quite a large number. Considering where I finished, I didn't finish badly, but I didn't finish as well as I'd like to. I played it when it was an absolute shit show. So I have a feeling I might own this. So flipping over to Aidan. Aidan, did you go to 4 or 5 events?
4 and 1 RTT.
So there you go. So most people who top 10 in the world, or people like myself, go to a lot, and it's your 4 best results that make it. Aidan went to 4, literally 4, and these 4 results from those 4 events put him number 2 in the world. The person who went ahead of him, I bet they went to at least...
I think they had like 15.
Exactly. So there you go. So this is again. So second, I didn't realise that until now. I'm podcast over, guys. I'm done. I was only here because I thought I was the best guy in the world. But in all honesty, your result. I mean, if you'd have gone to LVO, London, I think.
I'm hoping to go this year. I'm hoping to fix that, and we'll see how it goes. But let's not dwindle on the past. I'm going to start crying.
Yeah. So anyway, so moving on. So come on, let's hear about this listening. You've put we've already missed my preemptive drum roll. So there we go.
Obviously. So my old list was like a 25 Plague Marine, double Rhino build with a bit of a toolbox, so double Plague Caster, double Plague Burst Crawler, Lord of Virulence, Volkite Contemptor, heavy Blight Launcher Drone, and some Poxwalkers, and I think that's pretty much, and then obviously Taliban, Biologist, Putrefire. I think that's it. Wow, I just got it all that quick. Okay, so What has actually changed? So I'm still playing Inexorable. I still think it's the best overall Plague company. I still like it.
Rather than going for the change, let's just break it down for the top. So HQs, what have you got?
So I have got a Plague Caster, obviously. Plague Casters are very good. I'm still rocking that Plague Skull Relic. And I am taking Typhus.
Good man, okay.
So I really like having double casters. And remember a bit before about talking about the Contemptor dropping the heavy bolters? This is another reason why the Lord of Virulence has been swapped out for Typhus. So obviously that extra synergy there with the extra AP on the the core plague weapons getting the extra AP has dropped. So that's why he's gone back to Volkite. But yeah, I went for Typhus because basically I like having the double caster. I wanted to try and chip some points off here to try and make room elsewhere for the flash mower drone. Put the extra one in.
Yeah.
But I still think he's still giving out real ones to the group. The Lord of Virulence didn't have the extra contagion range anyway, so I'm used to like playing with like the -3 range, so I put it on my Tallyman now. Obviously I've got to be more careful, a bit more aggressive with Tallyman placement, but mainly I've got more targets to flash outbreak with, like blow drones, etc. But I just, he's still very good in combat, 6 attacks, flat 3 damage.
Typhus is a beast. Typhus is,
yeah.
And
I think he's still a little overcosted, but
he's overcosted compared to what other books get, and this is one of the big why Death Guard are not in the tier that we'd like them to be, is because they haven't updated the points. I mean, if Typhus was in the World Eaters book, it'd be 120 points or 130
it'd be
points
insane.
or something. And it'd be exactly the same stats. It's just with an older book, they're not going the deepest points they should. But anyway, so you've got Typhus, you've got a caster. I mean, what spells are we looking at? Come on, give us the gory details.
It's my usual package, so we're going to go with the Cursed Leper on the Plaguecaster, because I really like the Plaguecaster to be aggressive with the Plague Skull out of a Rhino, and he's also got the Extend Contagion Aura range.
Nice.
And then Typhus has the Miasma Pestilence and the Present Vitality, so you might as well hit and +1 strength, +1 toughness.
Okay.
I might drop the +1 strength, +1 toughness to double dip on the Plague extension range, because Present Vitality. I really wanna. I really like Cursed Leper, but I'm going to see how it goes first.
Because having played Typhus personally, there's a lot of times if he gets up close and personal in combat, and sometimes he's already in combat with something that you think, oh, it'd be quite good to just do a little round of mortals here before.
Yeah, because you get to do Destroy a Hive as well, and then Cursed Leper. So yeah, I can totally see that being good. So yeah, maybe, but I do like it also being on the caster, because obviously I'm playing aggressive with that skull.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have that. We then have our 25 Plague Marines, I believe. It's 25. So again, keeping the same sort of number. So we've got 10, 110 man, 3 5-mans.
So obviously the big question there is, I mean, no guess on what they've got on the combat weapons. Melter or plasma?
So at the moment it is the 10-man has Melter and the rest of them have plasma, but that's because that's what I have.
So ignoring what you had then, because this is obviously, an interesting sort of to go into the list itself. If you could have any model, what would you go for? Would you have them all Melter or plasma, or would you like a bit of a mix? And what would be the thinking?
I think I'd at least have one more Melter squad. I like the plasma squads because they sort of work as that second layer. The first layer being the big 10-man with the 2 Melter guns is just really nice. Just if you get a pot shot and it goes through. But I do like, especially with I've seen a lot of if World Eaters are going to come with things, having the extra volume of shots at damage 2 is really nice. Also, Grav Pods coming in, they're really nice to shoot at Devastators. Pick 4 shots of plasma from the squad's really nice to have. But it's such a close comparison. I like Melter guns because obviously I catapult out of Rhinos quite a lot. But as we are going, plasma guns are also getting a bit more value because Transhuman on Dark Angels makes 1-shot weapons very whiffy, and obviously 2 shots not much better, but it's something. But again, then it's countered by -1 damage, so it's it's hard to say. But I do like Melter guns because another thing with Melter guns is it's just you got way more chance of popping a transport, like a Rhino or something, And obviously our squad's mainly melee focused, so we want to get in chop what's inside up. You have plasma guns instead of melters, it's very unlikely you're going to pop like a Rhino. You might damage it, but you want to kill it and then charge what's inside. So I like the Melter guns more personally, so I think I would actually go Melter priority over plasma, but I do like a mix as well.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I always go Melter on mine, because I actually don't have the plasma models. I'm kind of the other way from you. But that's interesting though. I think, so I feel like obviously a lot of people listening to this will be sort of, I feel like that's the big question at the moment when you're looking at players. I feel like your Blight Launcher, your Plasma Gun and Power Fist on the Sergeants, obviously the Cleave and the Flail, I feel they're locked in. And then obviously it's the 5th one in your 5-man squads. And then when you get the 10-man squad, I suppose this is this is a very niche question. I feel like this one, it's your obligatory wounds guy really. What do you go for there? Obviously, do you go for axe and mace, or do you go for the spewer? What do you, or even
I take an icon.
Ooh, so go on. Let's break that down then, because I feel like that's obviously it's not a fluff choice. Or is it? Is it a fluff choice? You just
So it's a bit weird. It's a bit stupid, but so he's always the first one to die anyway. So chances are it won't get to do anything anyway. But the reason I like it is because there's times when like you need like I've had it before. I've like I had it against it was quite funny. I was against Abaddon, and he managed to get a heal off in a previous turn with a CP because he lived. So I meleeed him down to 1 wound, and then that then passed into the morale phase. I rolled for the icon and got the 4 up, and it actually pipped him and finished him off.
Wow, so it's kind of like this you've had this one instance, so now it's like it's sort of ingrained in you that like it will happen again, it will happen again.
And also there's times where I've charged someone, I've killed it, and then I've been against like Tau, so like I've charged like a I don't know, like a stealth team or whatever, and then I've consolidated into like a crisis commander, a crisis suit team, and then something else, and then I get 3 rolls to do a mortal wound to each one of them. It's not the worst. And like I said, he's gonna die first anyway, so he really gives a shit.
Yeah, that's fair.
But the mace is also. I don't have a mace painted up, but I'd probably also go with a mace. A mace is fine. I like mace.
Yeah,
especially since the AP1 is now relevant again.
Yeah, I go mace and the axe on my 10th guy, but I've thought a few times about the spewer.
Yeah,
because especially when Harlequins were in the meta and things like that, where it'd be really useful. There were certain things in the way, a few auto hitting hits when they're coming on a charge could have a lot of value.
I always think this. I'm always like, having a spewer really nice. But then I'm like, what would having a spewer really nice against? I'm like, well, Harlequins, of course. Oh, wait, they can turn off Overwatch. Oh, Gene Stealer, oh, wait, they can turn off Overwatch.
That's a good point.
I'm just like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like,
but then I guess Orc sometimes, if it's 20 boys charging you, it's like, you kill 3.
Yeah,
it's like,
wow, you picked up 2.
You're 17, you slap the poop out of you. So go on then. So we've got through the troops, and how have we got through the troops? So obviously we've got
10 Poxwalkers. 10 Poxwalkers just to hold backfield. Yeah, pretty much. Then we've got the Tallyman and the Biologist Putrefier standard.
So Tallyman, Toekeeper, yay or nay?
Yes, at the moment it's sort of like bracketing because there is still a Volcon. So for now, yes. But we'll see. Biologist Putrefier has the obviously Arch Contaminator, and the Figaris helm is not going to be in on Monday. I'm going to try it without it. I'm going to take it out because I'm going to give it to something else. The relic, you'll see.
Okay.
But yeah, so we have those 2 like support characters. We've got the full Volkite Dread with the missiles. I just love having one. It's such good long range shooting.
I've become the opinion because I took it out for 2 War Dogs, and I actually put it back in because I found that the Tallyman, much as he's great for CP, I don't get to use his +1 on core an awful lot sometimes because Plague Means are sometimes pushing forwards or jumping out of rhinos, and I found that giving it the Contemptor and the Contemptor hitting on 2s, which is effectively all the times with the Tallyman, I putting that back in. I'm now struggling to sort of imagine undoing that. So I think
it's hard, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's that's a strong. So I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Sorry,
that was an important question, but going to the Tallyman. Did you say Far Blightspawn?
Yeah, no Far Blightspawn still. I'm sorry, you know me.
But what about World Eaters? We've just been telling people.
Just layers, Will. Use layers.
There you go. Us chumps, we'll go for the switching off the charge phase, but you pros, you go for your layers.
So then I've got 4 Death Shroud Terminators. I still think 4 is the magic number, as we've discussed before. 3 can be too whiffy. 4 gives you that extra assurance, and if 1 dies, you've still got 3 and not 2, which is nice to have.
I 100% agree. I'm back to 4. I was running 3 for a while. Tried 5, but 5 is overkill a lot of the time.
And space as well. Space to deep strike.
Yeah, and then 3, like you say, sometimes you lose one of them and all of a sudden they just lose a little bit of the teeth, and 4 just seems to be the magic number.
Yeah, so I like that. I then have 2 Flesh Mower drones. Rocking the double Flesh Mowers because I really like the aggression. We've got 2 Chaos Rhinos, which I'm debating dropping down to 1. Do you play with 1, Will?
I've been playing with 2 because I find that sort of like jumping out of 2 and having that movement on 2 sides of the board is quite
that's
good.
What I'm feeling like. So I'm keeping the 2 for now, but debating it. But we'll see. But then the weird tech though is not really tech, but weird choice. Both PBCs have been dropped, and we've replaced them with 2 War Dog Stalkers.
Oh, okay. See, I haven't gone Executioner. You've gone Stalker.
Yeah. So the way I'm looking at it is, and this was a good example that got shown in the Votan game was that the aggression paid off because I held him on his primary, and the way the game's sort of looking right now, and especially like after the recent Goonhammer article talk about it, there's a lot of armies, like we have good secondaries, but we don't have the best secondaries. There are some armies that can like have very little interaction, and we'll get like 45 secondary. So the only way we can beat those kind of armies is to take our pretty good secondaries, which can get us like 40, 38, 40. But we have to be, and this is where I was talking about, I don't think we can go 5-0 by playing the defensive attrition game. I think we have to get aggressive. So I've took 2 War Dog Stalkers, which obviously have counters 5 obsec. And I'm not expecting to live, because people are like, oh, doesn't that weaken you despoiled? But the thing is, like, I'm not counting on them living the game, so I'm not going to play as if they are. So I don't really think it weakens it, because they'll be dead anyway, if that makes sense. But I'm taking them with the chain cannons and the Reaper chain cleavers. Yeah,
okay.
Because the entire role for them is I want them to go and steal a primary. They can die then. I want to go deny one primary objective, die, and then do the same next turn. And most things that are going to hold objectives are going to be cheap chaff. They don't care if it dies. So having the chain cannon and the cleaver to be able to sweep, it just means like, because you have the claw and like the melter, you could run into 10 guardsmen and you can't physically kill them.
Yeah, that's
And if you whiff, even worse. Whereas this, like, you guarantee you're going to kill enough to drop them below 5. That's the idea. One of them has also been upgraded to have the Mark of the Dark Master, which is the you can't reroll hits, wounds, or damage against them, and if they kill 5 wounds worth models, they get trans hitman.
See, I also play Knights. Do you also know about the strat?
No. Which strat?
And a 4+, that guy can get back up with, I think it's D3 wounds. So if he dies on an objective, you spend 1 CP, he gets up again, and you might still hold him.
Oh, that's even better then. Because
you can still use the Chaos Knight strats. I suppose that's something just to caveat here for the people listening. The Chaos Knights is still obsec. You can still use their strats. And also there's another strat that links back to that. I'm so glad you said that. They can also do mortal wounds in the morale phase. But you can make people take dread tests. You can still do that. Because it's like contagion to still give out the dread range. Obviously it doesn't.
They just don't do anything innately.
Yeah, but they're good little bits of tech to sort of be aware, because I know there's a lot of people might be sort of looking at it but don't have the Knight's book.
I am glad you said that, because I'm also running, as their trait, I'm running biomechanical fusion, which basically gives me the demonic surge table, so I can either take 1 mortal wound and roll a random effect, or take D3 and pick one. Now the trait also gives me a 4-up feel no pain versus those mortals, which is really nice. So obviously, I can potentially just shrug them all. Then the benefits are either +3 move, so I have a 15-inch move, again really good for getting onto that aggressive playstyle. I can give 1 weapon +1 to wound, which again, that's why it's better to have like chain cannon or a melee weapon rather than 2 executioner cannons, because you're going to know which situation you're going to want either to boost the gun or boost the claw. Or the most interesting one, the one I'm finding the most, because I think it can be pretty scummy if you do this, so it's the transhuman.
Yeah, it's good.
So imagine me now, Will. Imagine this, okay? So you run in front of a nice little Tau army with the trip tide and stuff like that, okay? You have your War Dog Stalker with Blessed of the Dark Master, and you blow away 5 crew. Yeah. So now it's turned on, okay? So you are now trans hitman. Okay? You're then gonna make yourself transhuman, okay? And you're gonna rotate your shields. Okay. So you are 4 ups only to hit. You can stand near dense, so basically anything that's not getting buffed off tiles hitting you on 5s with no rerolls allowed. Wounding you on 4s, no rerolls allowed. 4 up invuln, and then your Cloud of Flies the Plague Marine squad behind it.
I do like that. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, and people thought a Plague Burst Crawler was hard to kill to get to the squad behind. Try a 4 up to hit, 4 up to wound, 4 up invulnerable War Dog, which can then get back up as well. As you said.
One thing I have to say, because I haven't looked into this in depth, and they can definitely get because I know you can get the Warp Surge table as one of the favours, but is that not just the only thing you get? I don't think you get.
No, it's the 4 up. Yep, you get a 4 up as well. It's called biomechanical fusion.
I'm gonna have a look at this. I've literally got the.
Yeah, go for it, man. It's on the Fellbond for the Mechanicus, Dark Mechanicus Knights.
Ah, okay. Have a little look. I'm very curious here because I think this sounds like some interesting tech. So go while I'm checking this and not checking it while I'm saying it. So what are you? What made you think that over say like an executioner or a brigand? Because I found the executioners were pretty good for me.
I think executioners are brilliant as well. But again, it's mainly just because I want to start making the aggression towards the opponent, because again, we can get beat on these secondaries against armies that have these free, standstill, get 15. So at that point, we can start being the aggressor on the primary. So having 2 flesh mowers drones and 2 stalkers, that's a lot of forward pressure. Use that to get you, so then they draw all the aggro while your rhinos get into your position on your mid board, and then your plague marines can start coming out. Your second stalker that goes in is the one that has Dark Master, is hopefully procced it, starts Cloud of Flies in for the next wave of marines to come in. They've got to kill that. It's a pain in the ass to kill because it's going to take so much firepower. Again, talk about activation burn here. You can't get more activation burn than a 4-up to hit, 4-up to wound only, no rerolls to hit or wound, no rerolls to damage, and a 4-up invulnerable from shooting. And then again, just make sure that if it gets meleeed to death, it's still got the -1 damage strap, so you can use that. Like you said, it can get back up. I didn't even know it could do that. That's really cool to find out.
On a 4+. It's only the ones with the I call them the mark, but it's the favors.
Yeah, the undivided mark.
I'll see if I can find this.
I am perfectly fine with that. And I'm tempted. I said about dropping the Fugaris helm before. I'm tempted to put the Helm of Dogs on it to give it the real ones to wound to him and the other dog. But we'll have to see about that one. Yeah. Fugaris helm is really nice to have.
Another thing that's good with the knights as well is also obviously don't forget about Spiteful Demise, because I've done it before where I've had a character stuck between a rhino and a knight, and I've 1 CP the Death Guard auto explode, 1 CP the knight auto explode.
That's funny.
And,
boom.
I mean, yeah, these we're going into sort of specific sort of instances of I forget what the word is. It's quite sort of like niche, but yeah, it's quite a good thing. So what was the Fellbond that you said? I'm looking into this now.
Biomechanical fusion.
Oh right, yeah.
Oh, not bad, is it?
Yeah. Oh, okay. I completely overlooked that one. That's really good because I've been thinking about. So I run 2 executions. I have been thinking about running 2 of the carnivores, the combat ones, and giving them the exploding 6s.
That's great.
But I think what you've got there is perhaps a little bit more spicy, to be honest.
I just like the fact you can turn on transhuman and also get the 15-inch move if you need it. If that's going to make a charge go from an 8-inch to a 5-inch, I'll take it any day.
Yeah, and then the fact you can negate the wound. I think that's really clever tech. Like I say, that's something I completely overlooked. But I think when you've run through that and sort of talked about it, that there's a lot of sort of sense there. So I mean, what else is in the list, or is that it? Is that what you've gone to? Is there like a chaos spawn holding your backfield stuff?
No, so this is where I'm thinking about potentially like dropping the second rhino, maybe to fit in some chaos spawn. Because if I drop a rhino, I can fit in like a chaos spawn, maybe another Poxwalkers. You can start messing around with stuff.
Would you? I was going to say, I've been finding that sometimes I've got too much play. I mean, admittedly, you've gone back to a 10-man squad, which I've been thinking in my list I might need to do as well, because I was just running 5s. So I was going to say, maybe you could just run 24 5-mans, and then maybe even try and get a third drone in there. I don't know. I mean, this is
it's possible.
Because I've been thinking about 3 drones recently, especially with the Nexable and being able to sort of spread a contagion. I mean, this is kind of going off the point, but we'll come back to your list in a sec, because, I mean, obviously talk about the meta. I mean, we're kind of back to a meta with the 3 Contemptor, 3 Plague Burst Crawlers we're about. I know it's changed a lot because there's a lot more Space Marines to kill. It's not like the old one where you didn't, there's like a 25% more bodies on the table when you play Space Marines. But I was thinking, is there any space for that to come back as well? I mean, this is it's kind of a side question. Maybe it's a whole podcast on its own, but I mean, what would be your hot takes on that?
I think like a proper like old school shit. I think Contemptors are just genuinely really good anyway. I think the problem with Contemptors is still the stupid martial legacy rule, which I think really needs to be removed. It shouldn't cost us a TP. They're very good, but they're not oppressively good, especially at 195 points. So I mean, I think it can work. I think the main problem that we have right now, and the problem that we're going to encounter, and that's the thing that's going to stop us going like 4-1s, 5-0s, is the lack of that aggressive push. Like, and again, that's why I've dropped the Blightlords. They're not fast enough to make that impact. I'm not a person that's going to be happy to rely on a 9-inch charge from Deep Strike. Yeah, it can happen. You can get the good charge, and you can take a point, and it'd be a nightmare to remove. But when I start seeing war dogs with 15-inch move obsec, the flesh mowers sort of like opened my eyes to like the speed of being able to get up there with the fly and just start pressuring. Because the thing is, like, we can hold our home objective safe, Poxwalkers. We can hold out, because usually it kind of works out like there's a home objective that's safe. There's a natural objective that can be held from cover, and then there's sort of like one that's kind of like in the open a bit.
Yeah.
So the idea is that hopefully we can keep ripping away their one that is obviously in the open, and all we have to keep doing is cloud of flies in our one that's in the open. And because obviously they've got stuff in their deployment, they've got to kill that before they can even think about shooting that unit. And if we can just do that for 2 turns, we've got 2 turns of them on 4 and 2 turns of them on 12.
Nice, okay. I mean, this is something I think we need to hear more about once you've got some practice games.
Yes, I'm playing tomorrow. I'm playing this list tomorrow, so I'm very excited to talk about it and get some feedback. It could be dog shit. Like, I could come back and be like, yeah, I've messed up here, back to execution. Let's try execution or something.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
So my what I would say is as a caveat with the knights is they're great, but they're not as tough as what you sort of feel that they are.
Yeah.
Because if they've got the sliding table where the move goes down, sometimes that really hurts them when they lose their weapon skill and the move. Like, they're not like a sort of like a flesh mower where on one wound it's still just as efficient. That's what I've kind of struggled with when I've been running the knights.
I can see that.
So that's something that would be. But you've got a completely different role form. So the way you're running them is, sounds like they're going to sort of pop out people when people see them, it's because they're charging and they're taking the primary off them, and then obviously it doesn't sound like you're expecting them to sort of be around the following turn to doing the thing, and that's when you've got
the first one. The first one is 100% going to die. Like the first turn it goes out, and I'm fine with that. The idea is hopefully the second one can at least get its Dark Master online. Pop a transhuman, because again that won't have to be going as fast because it'll got to a midpoint the first turn. The other one kind of wants to just go as balls to the walls as it can, cause a problem, die. Second one at that point could then drop the movement boost for the transhuman, and then go out with a Dark Master Blessing and sit there with if I save a CP for it, we've got it from shooting, which is obviously a lot of the meta right now. We've got Transhitman, Transhuman, 4-up in Bone. Like, even if it dies, like, I'm hoping to draw bear in mind there's 2 flesh mode drones going around as well. I'm hoping and I can obviously put my asthma on one of those buggers. I'm hoping it'll draw so much like firepower that they're either going to decide, right, that's not worth me shooting at, it's not efficient enough, so it lives, in which case it's going to be 5 obsec, running around the place, and it's going to obviously then get into your lines even further and cause more problems, or they're going to have to focus so much at it that the flesh mower drones can then be free to go and maul an objective, sit on it with heroic intervention, and again then the next turn whatever survives can sort of then play that cloud of flies, so I can then hold home really safe. And I'm just trying to get my primary to at least have them 2 turns on a 4 and 2 turns on me on a 12. And then we go back to playing our old play style of, right, sit in our rhinos, jump out when they come near, because they're going to have to then make something happen. They're so far behind that point, they have to come to me to make something happen, and that's when we get rid of that counter punch out the rhinos.
I think that's a really good. It's a really different strategy, and something that, I mean, like I said, I already sort of mentioned I've been trying the knights for a while, but I hadn't tried to use them in that sort of aggressive way. I mean, I thought recently, because I've been finding my games, especially with some of the deployments, maybe I find I've started taking engage again, because I find with Despoiled Ground, unless I go second, sometimes it just doesn't work out for me, especially when people know what they've got to do, because sometimes you have to specifically say it. So if the game finished now, I had someone say to me in the last game I played, how many would you score? And I said, well, I'd score 15. They were like, well, how would you score 15? And I explained, they go, all right, so if I just kill this one unit here, you don't have anything in my deployment zone, and you don't have every engagement, every objective engagement, okay, so you lose 6 for that. Yep, so right, okay, so focus fire, that's you lost 6. And this is what they're doing in their last turn, obviously, if they've got the units left. And You know, and then obviously, so how would you get other points? Well, I have to hold more. What? So I just have to like stop you holding more than half the objectives. Yeah, okay. So I'll just stand an object unit here, and it's right. Okay, so now I'm scoring 6. Do you know what I mean? And often 6 is where it ends up. But I'm finding. But then obviously, if you go seconds, you know, it's a completely different game, especially missions that reward being second. So I can say I hate the fact I've resorted to engage the flesh mowers. Plague means jumping out of rhinos.
Yeah, I think this is the thing as well, like with this new list as well, it does also, like with the 2 flesh mowers and the 2 stalkers, it does open up engages as an option for me now. Obviously I've got the Death Shroud in Deep Strike as well, so you know, I can semi-reliably say I can at least get like 10 on engage, you know, 2 every turn, which is not bad to have as a backup. You know, if all the other secondaries are looking terrible, and I just like, I'll just go engage, I'll get 10 on it, and I'll be happy.
Yeah, because I was even almost thinking at one point about putting 3 malignant plague casters in, and just doing it for War Ritual and the armies. You can do it. Just pop him out, he's dead. The other one goes, he's dead. Now I was thinking, if people realise I'm going to do this, I'm also bleeding assassinate. So true. Any points that I'm scoring, I'm also giving away. But I think, you know, I've been running just 1 caster, but I think going back to 2 is something I'm going to sort of look at as well, especially because I haven't been running reroll 1s for quite a while. And I think Typhus is a great model, and I've been thinking about him a while. But I mean, I feel we've covered a lot of bases this week. So I don't know. Obviously, you know, we'll be back within the next couple of weeks with some more sort of topics, and you know, we can unpack it. I think we didn't even talk about plague burst callers and, you know, why they are or might not be good, but maybe
we keep coming into this with like lists of stuff to talk about, and then we just get the ball rolling and it just kind of comes out.
That's it, yeah. It just unfolds, doesn't it? But I mean, maybe that's something to unpack more, because I feel like the Knights is a really good conversation. I know it's not specifically Death Guard, but sort of, you know, going into a deep dive that a little bit more, because obviously, like I say, I've played them at the teams. I mean, I also have a fully fledged Knight army. You know, it's the other army. I can pick anything from the Codex. I just haven't enjoyed them in ninth at all, to be honest. I just thought when the Chaos Knight book came out, everyone out the gate, I just wasn't very impressed by it. But because it just hadn't fixed any of the problems that made Knights frustrating to play, they've always been a rock paper scissors army. Good. That's it. Well, make Death Guard good.
Let's do that.
You know, that's what we're helping people do. But maybe that's something we can unpack anyway. And obviously, demons.
Yeah, we definitely need to talk about allies at some point.
Yeah,
you know, I'll put up another policy up people want to cover. It is hard with World Eaters because it's such like it's cool because there's like stuff to talk about, and we've got I think we got good pointers on like how to like sort of approach the matchup and stuff like that. We've pointed out some secondaries that are nice against it, but again, it's kind of like it's just a zug match. Like literally, they're gonna just run at you. You're gonna smash into them, and don't get too obsessed with playing defensively because they'll just run you over on secondaries, and then start holding you on primary. Just beat them head on in the middle, bash each other because our efficiency usually just outtrades them. You know what? At least you'll have a fun game at the end of the day because it is fun to play against them because you're just going to murder each other.
Oh yeah, they're super fun. I mean, like I say, it comes back because one of the things I was going to talk about your list, and again, you know, not to sort of open up the fresh conversation. I know we need to wind things down, but you know, I've been running 2 squads of Poxwalkers, and I have to say, the second squad has been working wonders. I use a foul blightspawn, and the foul blightspawn does one thing. The second squad, sometimes I just bubble wrap a flesh mower, literally just make a ring around it, stand them on the objective that's in cover, and then if someone does come in and try and sort of kill the Poxwalkers, the following turn the flesh mower's there to get them. And I've been finding that they're quite useful. And you know, this is just sort of talk about, you know, putting screens back into lists. But again, you know, then you come back, the argument is 50 points better, you know, to upgrade your sorcerer at the Typhus, and you know, these are conversations maybe we can pick up on next week. You know, maybe some people, like you say,
and I'll hopefully tell people how this game went and this list goes. But thanks again, guys, for listening. Obviously, if you've got this point, you know, in the episode, hopefully you found it useful. Again, you know, like, comment, subscribe, you know, and thank you for the support we've had so far. And obviously, I'll hand it over to Aidan and let him do the sign out. Yeah, obviously, just let us know if there's anything you want us to talk about, etc. Like, we hope we found some of it useful. We're trying to obviously just share our love for Death Guard, share our like opinions on stuff and some tactics, and we hope some of it's been useful. We had a fella actually. Oh man, I can't believe it. I've actually just bloody forgot. A fella actually talked to us. We'll have to talk about it next time. I'm really sorry, mate. But he basically went to his first ever tournament after listening to our podcast.
Oh wow!
Used some of the things we talked about and managed to go 2-1.
Oh wow, well, there you go. It's good that we're sort of helping some people out then. God, actually, mate, don't be doing
Kyle
too
Russell.
good.
That's it, Kyle Russell.
Oh,
there we go.
Nice. Okay, I was going to say, Kyle, don't be doing too good because I'm often going 2-1, so you might be pushing me down the rankings here. So maybe don't rush too hard. Compete against me now.
So I promise you, Kyle, but we'll go through your list and we'll have a talk about it next week because he did do a write up for me on his experience. It completely went over my head. Me and Will have been a little bit behind on schedule because we've both been like mad busy. I know you've been mad busy with work. My dog's not been well, for example. He's on an operation on Wednesday, so we've been sorry. We will try and get more on like a consistent 2-week basis, but it's just been a lot at the moment. But we hope you still like the content, stick around. There is more to come. We do promise.
Well, this is it. So actually, this I know we'd be too much to Sam, but I will add in. So I did want to sort of do a shout out to the wider community and say, if anyone out there. So I'll caveat this before I say this, and it's not, if you go 5-1, 3-0 at an event, fantastic, but unless there's at least 30 players plus, it doesn't have the same connotation, just because, you generally sort of, the way sort of play, the way parents work, basically. If you are at an event with at least 30 people, and you get a 4-1 with Death Guard, 5-0, please reach out to us, because me and Aidan, we're hosting the podcast as the main two guys, but we're not against getting guest speakers on, doing maybe some pre-recorded interviews. So if someone has a really good run, maybe it's even you play against someone who you see do really well with Death Guard, hit us up about it, guys, because we'd love to speak to them. We'd love to sort of maybe even just break down the list. We want to make this sort of like a community sort of podcast. Anyone who's into the faction can get involved. So just like Aidan said there, obviously if you got your first tournament, it does really well. If you want to hear about that, but also for the guys out there who are pushing those top tables, if you want to come on here, share your opinions, talk about your list, maybe tell me and Aidan, maybe tell me why I'm a complete idiot, then you and Aidan can argue, who's the best, then, we'd love to hear from you, So this is something we want to sort of add in there as well.
Yeah, also, especially if you're also from a different meta to what me and Will play at, super interested to get someone's actual opinions on, like American meta. Like I'm speaking to some of the French lads. I've been speaking to Don Houston, so that's American and French. Who so you've got a big WTC format. Don who plays on like a lot of like GW format, etc. Like it's a very different world in all those scenarios. So it'd be like nice to get like people on to talk about that. So obviously people that listen to just GW, who just play on GW terrain, will have someone more akin to them. Whereas like I'm talking about L's and like Will, what's an L? I only know square.
That's it, yeah. I mean, because obviously in America the terrain is noticeably different. You could see it's by watching the LVO streams for sort of UK guys. Obviously there's similarities with all terrain, but it's something I want to talk about. And obviously, Australia's traditionally, maybe it's changed now, was famous for having a horde meta. Obviously I've got a deep Death Guard collection in terms of mods, and I'll be honest, I have thought a few times about, especially with Alex Warman, how many Plague Marines can you put on the list with the supporting characters and a few Rhinos? How would it go if you're someone out there and that's working and you've gone 4-1 at an event with it? We'd love to hear from you. This is something that because what we're talking about, we're talking from our own experiences, what we're seeing, and the meta we play. And as we've mentioned Mike Portner, Manny Chima, Matt Robinson. We do play in a part of the UK where the top UK players do come, and every now and again, you get the odd
just
guy
a public reminder: Mike Porter beats his opponents to death with a baseball bat.
yeah. God, he's probably going to beat me to death at baseball bat. But this is something that we want to hear from people, basically, because we want to sort of try and we want to learn ourselves as well. Obviously I've learned a lot from Aidan. And hopefully everyone else is learning a lot from it and learn a lot from him as well. And obviously if you're someone out there who thinks you've got something to sort of share, get in touch. Basically, this isn't like a closed forum. We want to hear about it, even if we don't get you on there. Get you on sort of talking. We might be able to drop a couple of anecdotes. So yeah, it's we want to sort of welcome the community and get people talking.
Now before we go on another tangent, we are going to say goodbye because we are terrible for this. So
I know, yeah.
Thank you very much for listening, everyone, and hope to catch you in the next one.
See you later on, guys. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.